There is a sound that people who live in apartment buildings know well. The sound of a neighbor above them, walking. Most of the time it means nothing. Someone who can't sleep, someone making a late meal, someone pacing because they're anxious or restless, or simply awake at an hour when the rest of the building isn't. It is one of the most ordinary sounds in the world. On the night of November 8th, 2021, in a 4-story apartment building on Holman Street in Covington, Kentucky, 3 separate tenants heard their upstairs neighbor walking. Pacing, they said, back and forth, for most of the night. In the morning, the pacing stopped, and when someone finally checked on him, the apartment was empty. Every exit in the building had been monitored by security cameras throughout the night. Not a single one showed him leave. His door was locked from the inside. His chain was drawn. His shoes were beside the door. And in the center of the room, pressed into the carpet, a single set of footprints, walking toward the wall and stopping. Let's establish what is confirmed, what is documented, what cannot be disputed. Covington, Kentucky, a city of approximately 40,000 people directly across the Ohio River from Cincinnati. Dense residential areas, older building stock, row apartments, and converted Victorian homes that have stood since the late 1800s. The building on Holman Street, a 4-story brick structure, was built in 1931. 12 units, single stairwell, 1 elevator, installed in 1987. 2 emergency exits, 1 at the rear of the ground floor, 1 on the second floor landing accessible via an exterior metal staircase. All 3 exit points were covered by the building's security camera system. The system had been upgraded 14 months prior. HD cameras, motion-triggered recording, footage stored on a local server in the building manager's office on the ground floor. The tenant in apartment 4C, we will call him Daniel throughout this episode, a composite name used at the request of his family, had lived in the building for 3 years and 4 months. He was 38 years old. He worked remotely for a logistics company. He had no documented history of mental health crisis, no prior incidents involving police, no known substance issues. He had 1 close friend in the building, a woman in apartment 3B directly below him, who has since given a formal statement to investigators and agreed to be referenced in this account. We'll call her Mara. On the evening of November 7th, 2021, building entry camera footage confirms Daniel entering the building at 6:14 p.m. He was carrying groceries. He was alone. He took the elevator to the 4th floor. The elevator camera confirms his arrival on the 4th floor at 6:15 p.m. He walked to his door. The hallway camera positioned at the stairwell end of the 4th floor corridor confirms he unlocked his apartment, entered, and closed the door at 6:16 p.m. That is the last confirmed visual of Daniel. From 6:16 p.m. on November 7th to the moment his door was opened the following morning, not a single camera in that building captured him again. Let that sit for a moment. 12 hours, 1 stairwell, 1 elevator, 2 emergency exits, all covered, all recording, all reviewed. He was not on any of them. Let's reconstruct the night, hour by hour. based on building camera footage, tenant statements, and the formal incident report filed November 9th, 2021. Daniel enters apartment 4C. Door closes. Mara, in apartment 3B directly below, reports hearing movement above her. Normal, she stated. He was often home in the evenings. She thought nothing of it. A tenant in apartment 4, a 2 doors down from Daniel on the same floor, reports passing his door on the way back from the laundry room in the basement. She noticed the light under his door was on. She heard the television. She did not interact with him. She went to bed around 10:30 p.m. Mara, still awake, reports hearing the pacing begin. She described it in her statement as follows. It was different from his normal movement. He'd walk around his apartment like anyone does, kitchen to living room, that kind of thing. This was different. It was the same path. Over and over. Back and forth across what would be his living room. Right above my bedroom. I counted 14 steps one way, 14 steps back, over and over. She assumed he was on a phone call or anxious about something. She put in earplugs and went to sleep. The tenant in the apartment directly below 4C, a different unit, a man in his 50s who works an early shift, wakes up. He reports in his statement, I heard footsteps above me, which was strange because I'm not under him. But sound travels in old buildings. I heard it clearly. Same pattern, back and forth. I remember thinking, whoever that is, they need to sleep. She went back to bed. The hallway camera on the 4th floor, the one that had confirmed Daniel entering his apartment the previous evening, triggers a motion alert. The recording shows the hallway, empty. The motion trigger was logged by the system, but no movement is visible in the footage. The system flagged it as a potential sensor error. It was the only motion alert logged on any camera in the building that night. Let's note that timestamp. 3:17 a.m. We will come back to it. Multiple tenants report that at some point during the early morning hours, the pacing stopped. None of them can pinpoint exactly when. Mara states, I woke up around 6. It was quiet. I remember noticing the quiet, which is strange. You don't usually notice silence, but I noticed it. Mara knocks on Daniel's door. They had a standing arrangement, occasional morning coffee when both were working from home. No answer. She knocks again. No answer. She tries calling his phone. It rings. She can hear it ringing faintly from inside the apartment. He doesn't answer. She calls again. Same result. At 9:02 a.m., Mara contacts the building manager. At 9:19 a.m., the building manager knocks on the door of apartment 4C. No answer. At 9:24 a.m., using his master key, the building manager unlocks the deadbolt. The door opens 2 inches, stops. The chain is drawn from the inside. The building manager calls out Daniel's name. No response. He calls again. Silence. At 9:31 a.m., police are called. At 9:48 a.m., 2 officers arrive. At 9:51 a.m., with welfare concern established, the chain is forced. The door opens. The apartment is empty. Let's go through what officers found inside apartment 4C. Carefully, because the details matter here. The layout of the apartment, a narrow entry hall leading into a combined living and dining area, kitchen to the right, single bedroom and bathroom at the rear. Total floor space, approximately 620 square feet. One front door. One window in the living area facing the street. Fourth floor, approximately 42 feet above ground level. One window in the bedroom facing the building's rear alley. Both windows were found closed and locked from the inside. The living area window has a painted shut secondary latch that had not been moved in, according to the building manager, at least 2 years. There was no fire escape accessible from either window, no balcony, no roof hatch, no secondary access of any kind. Now what was inside? Daniel's shoes, a pair of worn New Balance sneakers, were placed neatly beside the front door. Not dropped, not kicked off, placed. Toes pointed toward the door as if someone had set them down deliberately. His keys were on the kitchen counter. His wallet was on the kitchen counter beside the keys. His phone was on the bed face up, screen dark, battery at 34%. The television in the living area was off, but warm to the touch. The building manager noted this. Officers confirmed it. Warm as if it had been on recently and turned off within the last hour or two. There was a half-eaten bowl of food on the coffee table, pasta, a fork resting in it as if someone had set it down mid-meal and walked away, or been interrupted. And then the carpet. Apartment 4C had low-pile gray carpet throughout the living area and bedroom. Old carpet, the kind that holds impressions. In the center of the living room, directly in the center, equidistant from all four walls, a set of footprints, pressed into the pile. Officers documented them, photographed them. The prints were consistent with bare feet, adult male size. The pattern of the prints showed a path, beginning near the bedroom doorway, walking in the pacing pattern described by tenants, back and forth across the living room floor, and then the final set of prints, walking toward the western wall. The wall with no window, the wall with nothing on the other side but brick and the exterior of the building. The prints stopped at the wall. There were no prints returning. There were no prints turning. No slide. No stumble. No indication of any change of direction. They simply stopped. At the wall. Officers checked the wall. Solid brick behind the drywall. No hollow space, no access panel, no opening of any kind. The building's original blueprints were later reviewed by a structural engineer. No cavity exists behind that wall, no space that a person could enter. Nothing, just wall. This is the part of the case that investigators returned to repeatedly because it should have answered the question. It didn't. The building's security system covered 4 cameras. Camera 1, the main entrance lobby. Angle covering the front door, mailboxes, and elevator call panel. No blind spots at entry or exit. Camera 2, the elevator interior, full coverage. Anyone using the elevator is fully visible from entry to exit on any floor. Camera 3, the second floor emergency exit landing and exterior staircase. Motion triggered. Full coverage of the door and the staircase to ground level. Camera 4, the rear ground floor emergency exit, full coverage of the door, the exterior alley, and the gate at the alley's end. The 4th floor hallway camera, the one that captured Daniel entering his apartment, is a 5th unit, but was not part of the primary monitored system. It recorded to a local loop and was reviewed after the incident. All 5 cameras were reviewed, frame by frame, for the entire window between 6:16 p.m. on November 7th, when Daniel was last seen entering his apartment, and 9:51 a.m. on November 8th, when officers entered the empty unit. 15 hours and 35 minutes of footage across 5 cameras, reviewed by 2 officers and later a private investigator hired by Daniel's family. The result was the same across every review. Daniel does not appear. Not once. Not in the lobby. Not in the elevator. Not on the emergency staircase. Not at the rear exit. Not in the 4th floor hallway. The footage shows other tenants. The building manager arriving at 7 a.m. A delivery person who buzzed in and left a package at 8:12 a.m. Mara leaving her apartment at 8:30 a.m. and returning 20 minutes later with coffee. The building's activity documented. Normal. Everyone accounted for. Except Daniel. One anomaly was noted in the footage. Camera 4, the rear alley exit, shows a single frame at 3:18 a.m. where the image briefly distorts. Not a blackout. Not a cut. A distortion. Approximately 1 second in duration. The timestamp continues uninterrupted. The distortion was reviewed by the same independent audio engineers who had previously consulted on the Millard Creek Road case. Engineer 1's assessment. It's consistent with a strong electromagnetic pulse in proximity to the camera, the kind of distortion you might see if something with a significant magnetic field passed very close to the lens. Engineer 2. I've seen this kind of artifact before. Usually it's a malfunctioning camera or a nearby electrical surge, but there's no corresponding anomaly in the building's electrical logs for that time. And it's a single frame. A malfunction would typically produce a longer disruption. 1 frame. 3:18 a.m. 1 minute after the hallway camera logged its unexplained motion alert. Note the time. 3:17 a.m. 3:18 a.m. 1 minute apart. 2 separate cameras. 2 unexplained events. 1 minute apart. Beyond the formal statements already presented, 3 additional accounts were gathered by the private investigator retained by Daniel's family. We present them without interpretation. The first comes from a man who lived in the building 4 years before the incident and had since moved out. He stated that during his time in the building in an apartment on the 3rd floor, he had twice experienced what he described as the feeling of the building changing. I know that sounds crazy, but there were 2 nights, separate nights, months apart, where I woke up and the building felt different. Not the temperature, not a sound, just the quality of the space, like something in it had shifted. Both times it was between 2 and 4 in the morning. Both times I fell back asleep, and by morning it was gone. He had not reported this to anyone until the investigator contacted him. He was unaware of what had happened to Daniel. The second account comes from a woman who worked the overnight shift at a convenience store 3 blocks from the building. She stated that on the night of November 7th into the 8th, she observed a man she believed to be a resident of the Holman Street building standing on the sidewalk across from the store. Between 2 a.m. and 2:30 a.m., she noticed him intermittently, just standing, facing the building. She described him as still. Not like someone waiting for a cab or checking his phone. Just still, looking up at the building. She could not provide a reliable, physical description beyond adult, male, dark clothing. She did not see him leave. She did not see him walk toward the building. At some point between 2:30 and 3 a.m., she looked up and he was no longer there. The third account is the one Daniel's family has found most difficult to discuss. It comes from Daniel's sister. She stated that in the week before his disappearance, Daniel had called her twice. Both calls, she said, felt off. Not the content. The calls were normal on the surface: work, family, routine. But the second call, on November 5th, 2 days before he disappeared, she noted something. In her words, he paused in the middle of a sentence and I asked what was wrong. And he said, "Nothing. I just thought I heard something." And I asked him what. And he said, "I don't know. I keep thinking I hear something in here when I'm alone, like the apartment isn't empty." And I told him it was probably the building settling. Old buildings make noise. And he said, "Yeah, you're probably right." She paused during the interview. Then she added, "He didn't sound like he believed that." A structural engineer reviewed the building's blueprints and inspected the physical space of apartment 4C. His conclusions: no hidden cavity exists behind the western wall where the footprints terminated. No accessible void space beneath the floor sufficient to conceal a person. The ceiling original 1931 plaster showed no disturbance and no accessible space above it within the fourth floor. There is no route out of apartment 4C that is not covered by at least one security camera. His assessment, precisely, from a structural standpoint, there is no physical means by which an adult could exit apartment 4C without passing through the front door. The windows are at prohibitive height with no access structure below them. The walls, floor, and ceiling present no viable egress. The front door is the only exit. The front door, which was chained from the inside. A forensic analyst reviewed the carpet impressions. The footprints were consistent with an adult male estimated between 175 and 190 pounds, based on impression depth. Daniel's last recorded weight at a medical visit 14 months prior, 181 pounds. The pattern of the prints was consistent with the pacing described by tenants: back and forth, repetitive, extended duration. The final set of prints terminating at the western wall showed no signs of the gait changing, no stumble, no stop and turn, no evidence of falling. The analyst's language in his report: the subject appears to have walked directly and continuously toward the western wall and ceased forward movement at the point of contact with the wall surface. There is no evidence suggesting any other movement after this point. Ceased forward movement at the wall. The analyst was asked directly, "Is there any physical explanation for a set of footprints ending at a solid wall with no return path?" His response on record: "Within the framework of conventional forensic analysis, no." Law enforcement and the family's private investigator explored the following theories. Theory 1. Daniel exited the building without being captured on camera. Every camera was reviewed. Every timestamp confirmed continuous recording, with no gaps beyond the single 1-second distortion on camera 4 at 3:18 a.m. 1 second is not sufficient time for a person to pass through a doorway, traverse a hall or stairwell, and exit the building undetected. Theory 2. Daniel was removed from the apartment by a second party. No second party appears on any camera entering or exiting 4C. No second parties identified on any building camera during the relevant time window. The chain on the door can only be engaged from inside the apartment. A second party would have needed to exit through the same locked and chained door. Theory 3. Sleepwalking or a dissociative episode resulting in Daniel exiting the building without conscious awareness. The camera evidence does not support this. He would still have appeared on footage. He did not. Theory 4. The security footage was tampered with. The footage was reviewed by the building's security contractor. No evidence of tampering was found. The timestamps were unbroken. The recording server showed no external access during the relevant period. Theory 5. Daniel is still somewhere in the building, a space not accounted for in the blueprints. The building was searched. Every unit. Common areas, the basement, the roof, the boiler room. Daniel was not found. None of these theories hold. None of them explain the footage, the chain, the footprints, and the absence simultaneously. There is no theory on record that accounts for all confirmed facts at once. Let's return to the footprints one final time. They begin near the bedroom doorway. They cross the living room, back and forth, back and forth. The same path the tenants heard for hours. And then the final set. Straight toward the western wall, no deviation, no hesitation in the impression pattern. Stride length consistent, pace consistent, as if he was walking towards something or following something. There is one detail in the forensic analyst's report that was not included in the summary provided to the family. It was in the technical appendix. The impressions near the western wall, the final 3 steps before the prints end, were deeper than the rest. Not dramatically, but measurably, as if the weight pressing into the carpet had increased, or as if Daniel had slowed, leaned forward, pressed against something. Daniel has not been found. His case is classified as a missing persons investigation. It has not been closed. The apartment has been re-tenanted once since the incident. That tenant vacated after 6 weeks. She did not provide a formal reason. She told the building manager only that she could not sleep there. When he asked why, she said, "The pacing." She said she heard pacing above her apartment at night. She is on the 4th floor. There is no 5th floor. Daniel was last seen entering his apartment at 6:16 p.m. on November 7th, 2021. He was heard pacing until at least 3 a.m. on November 8th. The hallway camera triggered a motion alert at 3:17 a.m. Nothing was visible in the footage. Camera 4 distorted at 3:18 a.m. for 1 second. No exit was captured. The chain on the inside of his door was drawn. His shoes were by the door. His prints ended at the wall. He was gone. In the Millard Creek Road case, a call came in at 2:47 a.m. Something shifted in the room. At 2:53 a.m. The breathing began at 2:54 a.m. In the Holman Street building, the hallway camera triggered at 3:17 a.m. The camera distortion occurred at 3:18 a.m. The pacing was last heard somewhere between 2:30 and 3 a.m. We are not drawing a conclusion, we are noting the times, because in the cases that follow, the times will matter. Next episode. Next time on This Happened Here. A family in a suburb of Columbus, Ohio installed a doorbell camera after a neighbor reported a prowler in the area. On the night of February 19, 2020, at 2:11 in the morning, a figure appeared at their front door. It did not knock. It did not ring the bell. It stood there. for 2 hours and 21 minutes, still facing the door. In the morning, the family reviewed the footage and called police. The officers noted nothing unusual outside. No evidence of trespass, no footprints in the frost on the front path. But when they went inside to take the family's statement, the mother noticed something in the living room. An armchair that faced the window. She did not own that armchair. It had not been there the night before. And in the seat of the chair, an impression as if someone had been sitting in it for a long time.